Marco Romano didn't cry when his son was buried. Not when the coffin was lowered. Not when the dirt hit the wood. Because men like him don't survive by grieving. 3 months later, he returned to the grave alone. No guards. No gun. Just fog, stone, and the name Adrian Leone carved into marble. His son. His only son. He set fresh flowers at the base of the stone. He didn't kneel. He never did. "I told you to stay out of trouble," he said quietly. "I told you I'd handle it." The wind answered for Adrian. Nothing else did. Then he heard it. Crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just thin and broken, like it didn't belong among the dead. Marco's jaw tightened. No one came here this late. No one cried at his son's grave. He turned. A small figure knelt several feet away, half hidden by fog. A little girl. Maybe 6. Her shoulders shook as she pressed something to her chest, whispering through tears. Marco took a step closer. "Hey!" She flinched hard, scrambling back, eyes wide with fear. I didn't mean to," she stammered. Marco stopped himself. Lowered his voice without thinking. "What are you doing here?" She hugged the object tighter. Her hands were dirty. Her coat too thin. "I just wanted to see him," she whispered. Something twisted in Marco's chest. "See who?" She glanced toward the headstone. "Adrian." The name cut clean. "How do you know my son?" Her lip trembled. Tears slid down her cheeks. "He was my friend." Marco let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "My son didn't have friends like you." The words landed harder than he meant. She shrank back anyway. "He helped me," she said. "He said I wasn't invisible." Marco's fingers curled slowly. "What's your name?" "Emma." The name sounded too small for the space between them. "Where are your parents, Emma?" Her mouth trembled. She shook her head. "I don't have anyone." Thunder rolled somewhere far off. The fog thickened. Marco noticed what she was holding. "What is that?" She hesitated, then extended it with both hands, like it might burn her. "A photograph." Marco took it. His breath stopped. Adrian sat on a park bench, jacket off, smiling in a way Marco hadn't seen since he was a boy. Emma leaned into his side, holding a paper cup. Both of them were laughing. The date in the corner was over a year old. "This isn't possible," Marco said. "Adrian gave it to me," Emma whispered. "He said I should keep it safe." "Why?" "So I'd remember someone cared." The cemetery lights flickered once. "Where was this taken?" "After he brought me food," she said. "He always brought food." A cold realization crept up Marco's spine. "How long did you know him?" 6 months. 6 months. Adrian had been living a life Marco never saw. Why come tonight? Emma's chin quivered. "He was supposed to come back." Silence pressed in. "What do you mean?" "The night he died," she said softly, "he was coming to meet me. He said he had a place for me. Somewhere safe." Marco's throat closed. "He never came," Emma continued. "They said it was an accident. But if he hadn't been helping me—" Her voice broke. "It's my fault." That was the moment Marco's world cracked. Rain fell suddenly, cold and sharp. Marco didn't think. He stepped forward and wrapped his coat around her shoulders. She stiffened, then clutched the fabric like it was the only solid thing left. "No," Marco said. "It wasn't." She searched his face. "I have to go," she whispered. "The shelter closes." Marco looked at the grave, then at the child shaking in his arms. "No," he said again. "You're coming with me." Emma froze. "What?" You're not sleeping outside tonight. But I don't. You don't have to understand, Marco said. Just come. She hesitated, then slipped her hand into his. As they turned away, Marco's phone vibrated. One message. Send the girl away. His blood went cold. Because no one was supposed to know. The car sliced through the rain like it was trying to outrun the night. Marco drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the console where his gun usually sat. Tonight, it wasn't there. He'd come to the cemetery as a father, not a boss. That mistake was already costing him. Emma sat rigid in the passenger seat, knees pulled tight to her chest, staring at the windshield as if looking anywhere else might invite something in. Every passing set of headlights made her flinch. "Seatbelt," Marco said. She fumbled with it, fingers shaking, then went still again. Marco checked the rear-view mirror. 2 cars behind. Then 3. Then only 1. A black sedan held the distance, patient as a predator. Marco didn't speed up. He took an alternate route instead, turning without signaling, letting the sedan commit to the first turn. It did. His jaw tightened. Emma noticed anyway. "Are we being followed?" she whispered. Marco didn't lie. "Yes." Her breath hitched. "They always find me." "Not tonight," Marco said, and made it sound like a promise instead of a hope. He cut through back streets until the black sedan finally peeled off. When it disappeared, Marco didn't relax. He knew better than that. The iron gates of his estate opened as his headlights swept across them. Cameras tracked the car. Guards watched from the shadows with hands near their belts. Emma's eyes widened as the house appeared beyond the drive. Too large, too bright, too unreal. "You live here," she murmured. Marco didn't answer. The answer tasted like shame. Inside, warmth wrapped around them. Marble floors. Soft light. A quiet hum designed to keep the world out. Emma stepped in and stopped. "I'm going to get it dirty," she whispered, staring at the floor. "It'll survive," Marco said. He led her down the hall and opened a guest room. The bed was neatly made, untouched, too perfect. "There's a bathroom," he said. "Hot water." Emma didn't move. "I've never used one alone," she admitted, eyes fixed on the tiles. Marco paused, then nodded once. "I'll be outside the door." She showered quickly, like she expected the water to turn cold at any second. When she came out wrapped in a towel that nearly swallowed her, Marco handed her one of Adrian's old sweatshirts and sweatpants. She held the fabric to her face for a fraction too long. "It smells like him," she whispered. Marco's throat tightened. He turned away before she could see it. "Food," he said. In the kitchen, he set out bread, fruit, and warm soup. Emma ate slowly, cautious, like every bite had to be earned. Halfway through, she slid a roll into her sleeve without looking up. Marco saw it. He said nothing. When she finished, she didn't ask for more. She just stared at the counter, waiting. "You can sleep," Marco said. Emma looked toward the hallway, then back at him. "Can I sit first?" she asked. He followed her to the guest room and watched her perch on the edge of the bed like it might vanish if she trusted it. "I've never slept in a real bed," she whispered. Something tight lodged behind Marco's ribs. "I'll be nearby," he said. "You're safe here." Emma nodded, but her eyes didn't believe him. Marco closed the door and walked straight to his office. The moment he shut it behind him, he exhaled and sat heavily at his desk. His phone buzzed. "Unknown number. You should have left her there." A second message followed. "The girl belongs to Richard Hale." Marco stared at the screen until the words blurred. Hale wasn't a street name. Hale was a businessman in a clean suit with clean hands. A man you didn't touch unless you wanted a war you couldn't finish. Marco opened his contacts and tapped one. "Bring 2 men," he said when the call connected. "Quiet ones. Now." He hung up and opened Adrian's old laptop. He'd never touched it after the funeral. Tonight, he didn't hesitate. Folders. Drafts. Notes buried under bland names. Then the call log. Short calls. Frequent. Always to the same number. Marco dialed it. A woman answered, breath sharp, voice guarded. "Who is this?" "My name is Marco Romano," he said. "My son used to call you." Silence. "He's dead," Marco continued. "And a little girl is in my house saying he was protecting her." The woman's voice dropped. "You brought Emma to your home?" "Yes." A pause, then urgency that turned her words into knives. "You need to get her out. Tonight." "Why?" "Because Hale knows," she said. "And if he knows, he's already moving." "Who are you?" Another pause. A sharp inhale. "Someone Adrian trusted," she said. "More than you." The line went dead. Marco stared at the screen. His jaw clenched hard enough to ache. Footsteps approached. 2 of his men entered, faces serious. "Boss," one said. Black sedan down the road. Engine running. "Not ours." Marco stood. "Rotate the perimeter," he said. 2 at every entrance. "No one comes close without my say." He moved toward the door, then stopped. "If anyone asks," he added, "the girl doesn't exist." Upstairs, Emma was sitting awake, knees tucked under her chin, sweatshirt sleeves covering her hands. "Someone's outside," she whispered as Marco entered. Marco didn't lie. "Yes." Her shoulders rose toward her ears. "They always find me." "Not tonight," Marco said again. Emma looked up, searching his face like she was trying to find the truth inside it. "You promise," she whispered. Marco hesitated. Then he nodded. Glass shattered downstairs. A sharp sound. Too close. Marco moved fast. He pulled Emma into the bathroom and pushed her behind the tub. "Stay," he said. "Don't make a sound." Emma clamped both hands over her mouth. Tears pooled in her eyes. Marco stepped back into the hallway. This time, he didn't walk toward the noise. He hunted it. Marco reached the top of the stairs just as another crash ripped through the house. Glass. Not accidental. Deliberate. He moved without sound, body slipping into the rhythm that had kept him alive for decades. The living room window was blown inward, rain streaking across marble. A brick lay near the sofa, wrapped in paper. Marco picked it up. 3 words, written in block letters. "Send her back." A shape shifted near the kitchen doorway. Marco turned as a man stepped out of the shadows, hood up, gun already raised. "Step away from the stairs," the man said calmly. Marco didn't move. "You're in the wrong house," Marco replied. The man smiled faintly. "You brought the problem here." The gun fired. The shot shattered a vase inches from Marco's head. He lunged forward, grabbed the man's wrist, slammed him into the wall. A second shot went wild, ripping through drywall. They struggled in silence. The man was trained, efficient. Marco was desperate. He drove his elbow into the man's throat. The gun clattered to the floor. Before Marco could finish it, footsteps thundered in from the hall. "Boss." The man twisted free and bolted toward the back door. Marco's guards fired, but he disappeared into the rain. Marco stood still, breathing hard. Then he heard it. A scream. "Emma." He ran. She was still where he'd left her, pressed against the tub, shaking so badly her teeth rattled. "He was here," she whispered. "Wasn't he?" "Yes." Her face collapsed. "They're going to take me." "No," Marco said. They're not. She didn't believe him. He could see it in her eyes. That night, Marco didn't sleep. He sat in his office as dawn bled through the windows, Adrian's laptop open in front of him. This time, he went deeper. Past emails. Past call logs. Hidden folders. Videos. Adrian appeared on the screen, sitting in the driver's seat of his car. He looked thinner. Tired. "Dad," Adrian said quietly, "if you're seeing this, I messed up." Marco's chest tightened. "I know you wanted me clean," Adrian continued. "I tried. But I couldn't walk away." The video cut. Another file opened. Documents. Photos. Names. Richard Hale appeared again and again. Marco recognized them all. Politicians. Bankers. Men who smiled at charity dinners and ordered horrors in private. Adrian's final message played. "He's hurting kids, Dad," Adrian said. "Emma is just one of them. I tried to get her out. I tried to collect proof." Adrian swallowed. He found out. The screen went black. Marco closed the laptop slowly. His son hadn't died because he was careless. He'd died because he'd tried to be better than his father. A soft knock came at the door. Emma stood there, clutching the photograph. "Am I in trouble?" she asked. Marco shook his head. "You're not. They always say that." "Not me." She hesitated, then spoke again. "Adrian said you were dangerous." Marco didn't deny it. "He said you'd protect me anyway." A car engine roared outside. Marco stood. "Stay here," he said. The front door opened before he reached it. A woman stepped inside, soaked from rain. Mid-30s. Eyes sharp with fear and resolve. "Marco Romano," she said. "My name is Sarah." Emma gasped. "Mama." Sarah dropped to her knees, pulling Emma into her arms, sobbing into her hair. Marco watched, something heavy settling in his chest. Sarah looked up at him. "You took her in," she said. "That was a mistake." "Why?" "Because Richard Hale doesn't forgive," she replied. "And because your son stole something from him." "What?" Sarah's eyes hardened. "Proof." A gunshot cracked at the gate. Marco's men shouted. Sarah grabbed Emma tighter. "He's here," she whispered. Marco turned toward the hall. "No," he said. "He just made the wrong move." The gates exploded inward. Metal screamed. Alarms wailed. Floodlights snapped on, bathing the grounds in white. Marco moved without hesitation. "Basement," he told Sarah. "Now." She didn't argue. She ran. Marco stepped into the front hall as his men poured in from every direction. Orders were shouted. Someone screamed. Then Richard Hale walked through the smoke like he owned the place. Clean suit. Calm eyes. No rush. "You should have let the girl go," Hale said. Marco stopped a few feet away. "You killed my son." Hale shrugged. He touched what wasn't his. Marco felt the old instinct rise. The easy answer. "Kill him." Hale smiled, like he could hear the thought. "That's why Adrian tried to do this without you," Hale said. "He didn't want to become you." The words landed hard. "You're here for Emma," Marco said. "Not me." Hale's smile thinned. "She's evidence." A cry echoed faintly from below. Hale raised his gun. And Marco did something no one expected. He stepped aside. "Go," Marco said. Hale blinked. "You're letting me walk." "No," Marco replied. "I'm letting you choose how this ends." Marco pulled out his phone. "One word from me," he said, "and everything Adrian found goes public." Sirens wailed in the distance. "Federal. Close." Hale's eyes flicked toward the sound. "This isn't over," he said. Marco didn't chase him. He went to the basement. Emma clung to Sarah, shaking. "Is he gone?" Emma whispered. "For tonight," Marco said. She looked at him. "You didn't hurt him?" "No." "Why?" Marco searched for the truth. "Because my son wanted me to be better." Emma nodded like that was enough. But upstairs, Marco knew the truth. Hale wouldn't disappear. He would adapt. And next time, he wouldn't come alone. The night didn't end when Hale left. It only shifted. Marco stood in the basement long after the alarm stopped, listening to the quiet settle in layers. Emma slept curled against Sarah's chest on the concrete floor, exhaustion finally winning. Sarah stroked her hair mechanically, eyes fixed on Marco like she was measuring the distance between danger and trust. "He'll come back," Sarah said. Marco didn't argue. "Yes," he replied. That honesty scared her more than a lie would have. By morning, the estate looked like a crime scene that refused to admit what it was. Shattered glass swept away. Blood scrubbed from marble. Men replaced at the gates. Life pretending to continue. Marco sat in his office with Adrian's laptop open, phone pressed to his ear. He wasn't calling allies. He wasn't calling rivals. He was burning bridges. "Release it," he said calmly. "All of it." On the other end of the line, a man hesitated. "That will destroy people," the man warned. "Yes," Marco said. "That's the point." He ended the call and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Once this moved, there was no stopping it. Midday, Emma wandered into the office barefoot, clutching the photograph. "Are you leaving?" she asked. Marco looked at her. "No." She studied him carefully. "Everyone leaves. I'm still here." She nodded, but doubt lingered behind her eyes. That afternoon, the first wave hit. News alerts. Phones buzzing. Names leaking. Richard Hale's operation unraveled in real time. Shell companies frozen. Warehouses raided. Accounts seized. But Marco didn't celebrate. Men like Hale didn't fall quietly. At dusk, Marco found Sarah in the kitchen, staring out the window. "You could still send us away," she said without turning. "Disappear. We're good at that." Marco shook his head. "He'll hunt you," he said. "Forever." Sarah finally faced him. "And if we stay?" "Then he comes for me," Marco replied. "And that's something I understand." Silence stretched between them. "You're not the man I expected," Sarah said. "I wasn't the father my son deserved," Marco answered. "I don't plan to make that mistake twice." A car slowed outside the gates. Didn't stop. Didn't enter. Just slowed. Marco watched it pass, memorizing the shape. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, knees tucked up, eyes fixed on the dark hallway. "Is he coming back?" she asked. "Maybe," Marco said. She swallowed. "If he does, will you send me away?" Marco looked at her. "No." She shifted closer to him, just a few inches. "Adrian said people leave when things get scary." Marco felt the weight of that. "He was wrong about some things," Marco said quietly. Emma tilted her head. "Was he?" A phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. Marco didn't answer. A second buzz. Then a message appeared. "You can't protect her forever." Emma saw Marco's jaw tighten. "That's him," she whispered. "Yes." Her fingers curled into the blanket. "Will he take me?" Marco reached out, steady, deliberate, and covered her small hand with his. "No," he said. "If he comes through me." She looked up at him, eyes searching. "You won't disappear?" Marco didn't hesitate. "I won't." That was when she said it. Soft. Almost afraid. "Can I call you Dad?" The word landed heavier than any threat. Marco didn't answer right away, because promises mattered. Then he nodded. "Yes." Emma leaned into his side like she'd been holding that breath for months. Above them, a helicopter passed low. Not close enough to land. Close enough to remind. Later that night, Sarah stood in the doorway, watching them. "You didn't have to say that," she said. "I did," Marco replied. She studied him for a long moment. "He'll use her against you," she said. Marco met her gaze. "Then he'll learn what that costs." Just after midnight, Marco's phone rang. This time, he answered. Richard Hale's voice came through smooth and amused. "You chose chaos," Hale said. "You chose children," Marco replied. A pause. "You think exposure ends this?" Hale asked. "I have men who don't need money. They need orders." "Then give them one," Marco said. Another pause. Longer. "I'll see you soon," Hale said. The line went dead. Marco looked down at Emma, already half asleep against his arm. Outside, the gate stood closed. For now. The call didn't come back. That was worse. Marco stood at the window long after the line went dead, watching the gates like they might breathe. The estate was quiet, but not asleep. Men rotated shifts. Cameras swept. Lights stayed on. Emma slept on the couch, curled into Sarah's side, one hand still gripping Marco's sleeve like she'd wake up if she let go. Marco didn't move. Near dawn, the news broke fully. Richard Hale was being hunted. Raids across 3 states. Warrants signed. Names released. Men in suits dragged into daylight. Commentators called it unprecedented. Temporary. Fragile. Marco knew better. Hale's empire wasn't a building. It was a habit. By morning, Sarah stood in the kitchen, staring at her phone. "They're saying Hale won't survive this," she said. "That his people are turning on him." Marco poured coffee he didn't drink. "Men like him don't disappear," he replied. "They shrink." Emma wandered in, rubbing her eyes. "Is today normal?" she asked. Marco crouched in front of her. "There is no normal," he said. "But today is quiet." She accepted that. Later, a car arrived unannounced. Not at the gate. Inside the perimeter. Marco watched it roll up the drive without urgency. No threat display. No rush. A messenger. The man handed Marco a single envelope and left without a word. Inside was a phone. And a note. "For when you're ready to listen." Marco crushed the note in his fist. Sarah watched him carefully. "You don't have to answer that," she said. Marco looked at Emma, now sitting at the table coloring, tongue tucked between her teeth in concentration. "I will," he said. "Eventually." That afternoon, they went to the cemetery. Emma insisted on carrying the flowers herself. "Yellow." She said Adrian liked bright colors. Marco stood back as she knelt, brushing dirt from the stone with careful fingers. "Hi," Emma whispered. "I'm safe." She hesitated, then glanced over her shoulder at Marco. He kept his promise. Marco didn't move. "I miss you," Emma added softly. "But I'm not scared all the time anymore." The wind passed through the trees, gentle this time. As they turned to leave, Emma reached for Marco's hand. He let her take it. That night, the phone vibrated. Once. Marco didn't answer. It vibrated again. He waited until Emma was asleep before stepping into his office and closing the door. "Speak," Marco said. Hale's voice came through distorted, distant. "You've made life inconvenient," Hale said. "That doesn't mean you've won." Emma is untouchable, Marco replied. Hale laughed quietly. No one is untouchable, he said. But you're right about one thing. A pause. I won't come for her. Marco's jaw tightened. I'll come for you. The line went dead. Marco stood still. That was the truth he trusted. The next morning, Richard Hale was found dead in a holding cell. Heart failure, they said. No witnesses. No questions. Sarah went pale when Marco told her. So it's over, she asked. Marco didn't answer. He stood at the window again that night, watching the gates. The underworld never vanished. It only waited. But when Emma laughed in the living room, real laughter, unguarded, Marco felt something shift. For the first time in years, his hand didn't drift toward a weapon. It drifted toward her. Weeks passed. The estate changed. Doors stayed unlocked longer. Lights went off sooner. Laughter returned in pieces. One night, Emma padded into Marco's study holding a blanket. I can't sleep, she said. He opened his arms without thinking. She curled into his side. Dad, she asked quietly. Yes. Are the bad men gone? Marco thought about Hale, about the phone, about the envelope still locked in his drawer. No, he said honestly. But they're farther away. Emma nodded, satisfied. That's okay, she said. You're not. Marco rested his chin on her hair. Down the hall, Sarah watched from the doorway. She didn't interrupt. Later, when the house was asleep, Marco opened the drawer and looked at the phone one last time. He didn't turn it on. He placed it beside Adrian's photograph instead. A reminder. A warning. A choice. As dawn broke through the windows, Marco Romano understood the truth his son had died believing. Love wasn't weakness. It was the only thing strong enough to make a man dangerous for the right reason.